One unfolds on a warm Saturday afternoon as I drove up the narrow gravel road leading to my lake cabin, expecting a quiet weekend of fishing and relaxation. But the moment I reached the last bend, I noticed something that made my stomach drop: dozens of cars parked along the roadside, blocking the path like some kind of impromptu festival. SUVs, sedans, even a luxury limousine, none of which I recognized, lined the lakefront as if my secluded property had been turned into a public parking lot. At first, I thought maybe there was a wedding or someone had taken a wrong turn, but as I got closer, the sound of loud music thumping through subwoofers made the situation painfully clear. My cabin, my private retreat, was the center of a party. And not just any party. This was extravagant, noisy, and definitely unauthorized. I left my truck hidden under the trees and approached on foot, sticking to the edge of the property so no one would see me. People I'd never seen before wandered around my deck with drinks in their hands. A portable margarita machine sat on my picnic table. Fairy lights wrapped around my porch pillars, and someone had even rolled out a red carpet leading to my front door. Red carpet. At a lake cabin. Then I spotted her. Linda Donahue, the HOA president. She strutted around in a sparkling blue dress, barking orders at two HOA board members who were hanging a huge banner above my entrance that read, "Welcome to Linda's Lakeside Estate." I felt my eyebrow twitch. Estate? She didn't even bother pretending it wasn't mine. Linda held a clipboard as if she were orchestrating a royal gala. "Move the cooler closer to the door. And make sure the guests know the boat is available for photos," she snapped while adjusting her pearls. The boat she was referring to? My fishing boat, which she'd dragged halfway out of the boathouse and decorated with balloons. I stayed silent, hidden behind a cedar tree, watching in a mix of disbelief and fury. Linda had always acted entitled, but this was a new level, breaking into my cabin, claiming it as her personal venue, and hosting a full-blown luxury party as if she owned the place. She had no idea I was watching. No idea I was already planning payback. And absolutely no idea that the traps I'd installed for burglars were about to turn her glamorous event into a complete disaster. I waited until the crowd grew even louder before circling around to the back of the cabin where the security panel was hidden beneath a loose wooden plank. Months earlier, after dealing with raccoons, teenage trespassers, and one very persistent door-to-door solar salesman, I had installed a set of harmless but annoying deterrent traps. They weren't dangerous, just designed to keep people off my property. And today, they were about to get their biggest test yet. I lifted the plank and pulled out the small remote keypad. The screen lit up with a soft green glow, and I entered the 4-digit code. A quiet series of beeps confirmed that the system was active. It wasn't a complex setup: motion-triggered sprinklers near the deck, pressure pads under the porch boards that released confetti, and a slick, fast-drying coating I'd applied to a specific section of the wooden walkway. Then there were the speakers, hidden Bluetooth devices connected to a playlist I'd titled Emergency Wildlife Sounds. The finale was the autolock feature on the front door, which would seal shut if someone slammed it too hard. I knew Linda's temper guaranteed that would happen. Once activated, I crept around the side of the cabin, blending with the trees and shadows. The first guest to approach the deck didn't even notice the tiny silver dot of the motion sensor aimed at his shoes. The moment he stepped into range, a powerful jet of cold lake water blasted straight up from the railing, soaking his expensive blazer. He yelled and stumbled backward, confused, while others laughed, assuming he'd just tripped or spilled a drink. Linda glanced over, annoyed. "Can someone turn off the sprinklers? This cabin has terrible maintenance," she complained loudly, as if she hadn't broken in to host a party at someone else's property. The traps triggered one after another, each more inconvenient than the last. A pair of women walking across the porch activated the pressure pads, causing a burst of colorful confetti to rain down over them. They shrieked, stumbling as the slippery coating caused a chain reaction of slips and near-falls. Drinks hit the ground. Someone's sunglasses flew into the bushes. From my hiding spot, I watched with a grin as guests tried to regain their dignity. They had no idea the chaos had just begun. And Linda, too busy trying to look like the perfect hostess, didn't realize her stolen party was slowly unraveling, one trap at a time. The party was supposed to impress the HOA board members and solidify Linda's, queen of the neighborhood, image, but the traps were turning everything into a slow-burning disaster she couldn't control. As more guests arrived, confusion spread through the crowd like sparks leaping across dry leaves. Each new mishap stirred frustration and embarrassment, yet Linda kept insisting everything was perfectly under control, even as her hair frizzed from a sprinkler blast she swore wasn't water but malfunctioning humidity. Inside the cabin, things escalated further. I had set the stereo system to pair with my hidden phone, and when I switched playlists, the speakers erupted with a deep, snarling bear roar. The bass shook the windows. Several guests screamed and ducked, dropping plates of appetizers. One man climbed onto my sofa as if a grizzly might charge through the front door at any second. Everyone calmed down. Linda shouted, slamming the door shut with enough force to trigger the autolock system. The door clicked loudly, sealing itself. She tugged on the handle again and again, her voice rising in panic. "It's jammed. Who installed these cheap hinges?" Meanwhile her guests were no longer amused. Someone trying to balance a tray of mini quiches stepped onto the slippery patch near the porch entrance and lost their footing completely. Drinks flew. Food splattered. A full margarita pitcher tipped over, cascading down the steps in a sticky waterfall. I watched as two HOA board members argued loudly over who was responsible for renting the faulty cabin. "It's not rented, it's borrowed," one insisted. "Borrowed from who?" Linda said it was her lake house. That line alone ignited a wave of grumbling from the crowd. People wiped mud off their shoes, dabbed confetti from their hair, and eyed Linda with suspicion. The chaos reached a peak when I activated the wildlife warning segment of the playlist, frantic birds, rustling bushes, then a loud metallic clank, perfectly staged to mimic a bear rummaging through trash. The sound echoed across the lake. Within seconds, guests scattered. Some sprinted for their cars. Others leaped off the deck, landing in the shallow part of the lake with dramatic splashes. Shoes floated. A wig washed ashore. Someone lost an entire cheese platter in the water. The glamorous party Linda dreamed of hosting had completely collapsed, and she stood frozen in the middle of my living room, mascara smudged, dress damp, guests furious, still pretending everything was fine while her lakeside estate fell apart around her. When the noise finally died down and the last terrified guest sprinted toward their car, I decided it was time to end the show. Linda stood alone on the porch, her sparkling blue dress clinging to her from the earlier sprinkler incident. Confetti stuck to her hair like a twisted party crown. She was panting, furious, and still yanking the locked front door as if it would magically obey her. I stepped out from behind the trees, slow enough that she saw me only when I was halfway across the yard. Her eyes widened, and for the first time that day, she looked genuinely speechless. "Oh, it's you," she stammered, trying to straighten her posture as if she could rebuild her dignity on command. You weren't supposed to be here this weekend." I crossed my arms. "Clearly. But then again, neither were you." Linda swallowed hard, her confidence unraveling. "Listen, we just needed a place for the HOA Appreciation Gala. And your cabin, well, it was available." "Available?" I repeated. "You broke in, Linda. You took over my cabin, trashed my property, and threw yourself a party like you owned the place." She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. A grid appeared, security camera footage. Every angle of her party, the board members hanging the banner, guests messing with my belongings, Linda ordering people around like it was her kingdom. Her face turned pale. At that moment, the faint sound of sirens echoed from the forest road. Not dramatic police sirens, just a single unit I had called earlier, calmly pulling up to handle a trespassing report. Officer Lane stepped out, one brow raised at the mess, overturned coolers, muddy footprints, a ruined drink station, and water pooled across the porch. "Linda Donahue?" he asked. We got a report about unauthorized